Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs, and today I'll be showing you how I painted the Joker model from Knights Models. So this is from the Back to Gotham starter set. They also sell this model individually now. But what we are going to do is we are going to do this to tabletop standard. And notice this is the full display piece. Okay, so this is all the accoutrement. There's a simpler version. And if you ever wonder why you don't see videos about people painting all of the complex version, like the full giant base backdrop one, you need patience for this one. And you need to take your time on this one. So normally we try to do this to tabletop standard in 1 day. For this one, I'd recommend 2-3 days. Do this one. Be patient with it. Good looking model, but it can tax you. But to paint this one, there's a lot of colors. And I use mostly army paints. But there's just a lot of stuff going on in this model. So there's going to be a lot of color that we're going to have to use. So I primed it standard Mechanicus gray. Then out of the army painter lines, I used fur brown, ultramarine blue, matte black, Necromancer cloak, gunmetal, kobold skin, pixie pink, dragon red, greenskin, alien purple, mythical orange, jungle green, fog gray, hemp rope, plate mail, metal, scar tissue, wolf gray, Viking blue, mummy robes, poison cloud, matte white, and moon dust. And I did use one P3 paint, Ryan Flesch, and I did use 2 washes from Citadel, Reikland Fleshshade, and Nuln Oil. So let's go ahead and get started with this guy. Now you can see the model in front of me. And the way we're going to paint this is in sub-assemblies. So I'd like to have as much of the model put together as possible before I prime in standard Mechanicus gray. But if I assembled this model completely, then there'd be a lot of detail I couldn't reach. So we're going to use the sub-assembly approach. And the easiest way I did that is the one little companion will be by itself. The Joker will be assembled, and the smoke attached to him, and then we're going to have the main stage piece. Alright, so we're going to focus on the stage piece first here. I'm going to start by painting from the bottom up. We'll get to that room eventually, but I want to do the floor of the stage. I'm going to use fur brown because I want a little bit of red in the wood color, and I want to distress that wood later. So go ahead and go with the grain of the wood, working it into some of the cracks. Alright, we got the fur brown on. Now we're going to switch to ultramarine blue. And we're going to do the curtain here for his stage. Now don't be intimidated by this model. It looks complex, but it's actually just some simple colors and a little bit of patience. Now we're going to let that blue dry for a while, and now I'm going to use some matte black. Where's my medium layer brush? Here it is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the stand. So I can do the rim. I'm going to do that in another color. I'm going to do, I don't have to worry about touching it. I'm not going to do the lights here. That's going to be something else. I will just go around, carefully do the edge of the platform, because I'm going to make it look like it's carved out of a comic. And then, once we go around the rim, we're going to go around and do all these little triangles inside the support structure for the curtain. Now we're going to paint the stage lights. See, there's 3 of them. We're going to use Necromancer Cloak. This will make sense when we put the Nuln Oil on it. Now we're going to work on the support pole. So I filled in the recesses black, and you can see I was a little sloppy with it, because now I know we're going to take some Army Painter gunmetal, which I like is just a basic rough color there. I'm going to take the side of the tip of the brush and just run it along the poles there. Just let it glide right to the edge. And see, this is the fun part, because we got to do all this lattice work. Yay! Well, it'll look good in the end. Now that we've picked out all these pieces here, it's looking pretty sharp. What we're going to do is go on to painting these little helper dudes. So we got 3 of those there. And so I'm going to take some Army Painter Kobold skin. Get a little drop of this here, if it will come out of the tube. Alright, one's fighting me in the tube. Okay, there, got it out. Okay, so I'm going to start with this guy, and we're just going to paint, surprisingly enough, the skin parts. Kobold. And if you run over a little bit, it's not going to hurt. And this is part of the reason why I did this detached, is just so I can really get the detail on these guys. And just move calmly and patiently. Good times. Listen to a podcast, watch some Three's Company, whatever it takes. Alright, now we're going to take some Pixie Pink, and then we're going to do the ruffles of the little gas canister guy. We're going to make that pink. And his little collar. And then we're going to do the block letters of the Joker, which I've already wanted to test out. So working with this, it looks like to get over the Ultramarine's blue, we're going to need 2 coats of the Pixie Pink. Now we are going to use some dragon red. And let's talk about what portions are going to be red here. Alright, so you're going to have these little chompy jaws. Now to do this, I'm just going to paint the whole thing red. That's going to serve as like a base coat. And let's see, get all the way around him. And then we're going to do the little bows, the little helper minions here. Got one there, one there. See, now there's a couple of these little chompy jaw guys. Down here, ah, that's right. And here. And we have 2 more bows. That's going to be it for right now. I'm going to just go touch those up. Alright, so I forgot, I was going to paint the tutu red too, so I did that. But now we're ready to move on to the green. We're going to start with Greenskin. We're going to use this as a base. So this is something that's dark. We're going to put lighter colors on. So, usual. Here we're going to do the hair of Joker. And then we're going to do, let me just mark, we're going to do the fish. The stinky fish. We also have the hair of the Joker-like head that goes on the gas tank. And we're going to do the poisonous laughing gas. What else will we do? Ah, that's right, all the little helper henchmen, they've got plumes. So we're going to do their hair. Oh, and let's not forget this one. Alright, so just go and start filling in all this green. We're actually making pretty good time here. So we have the 3 pieces in front of us. Now we're ready to do Joker's suit. So we'll be focusing in on this character here because we want this green to dry a little bit more. And I'm going to use Army Painter Alien Purple as my camera struggles to focus. So we're just going to do the suit. So now this includes the cravat tie here and the gloves. And in the example artwork, they have his cuffs green, but we'll do that after. Get the purple taken care of. So just finish going around there, and we'll want to work nice and carefully. Get a sense of how he's coming along. Looking good. We'll grim him up a little bit later. Take some Mythical orange. And that is going to be for his suit vest. Probably need a couple layers of this. Stuff's pretty thin. Especially over that purple. Now I'm going to wait for that orange to dry. Now I'm going to hop back to the green. I'm going to do a jungle green. So the idea of this is to make the green pop a little bit more. And so just take this out of our brush and just randomly poke at some of the raised edges there. Try to lighten up the little fish. And then there's some of the hair there. We're not trying to get complete full coverage like we were with the Greenskin green. Just enough to show that some depth to this model. It would help if I actually showed you. It's a problem when you have example models this big. Now, oh, almost forgot the other little fish. Now what I want to do is most of this will actually go in the poison gas. That's like a real focal piece of the model here. But we're also going to do the hair. And then I will switch to my extra fine brush hair. What I'm aiming for, as you can see, between the gloves and the suit, he's wearing a green shirt. And so that's where we're going to mark out right there. Start pulling out that detail. And then we'll get his little shirt collars. You can see them right there. Very small detail. You probably can't see them. But if you look at the model example art, you can see his little collars. And then we'll get this one here. So we'll go ahead and start filling in the parts we glossed over. Nice smooth action. We can see that green is coming along nicely on there. Now I want to do the gas canister. I'm going to use two colors for that. The canister itself is going to be fog gray, while the little strap carrying it to its back will be hemp rope. And I thought this reflected what you would actually see moving these things around. gentle movements. That's what it'll look like. So we'll go ahead and tidy it up. Alright, let's get a good look at it. Might do a setting coat, depending on how it looks when it dries. Probably not. If you do just a single coat, it'll give let some of the gray show through, and that might actually make it look like it's a worn out painted can. You can see everything's moving along here. Next I'm going to use plate mail metal, and that will just be for the mic and the pistol. I'm using my smallest tip brush just because I've got to work around all the gloves. Now we got the silver done, we're going to use some scar tissue, and that is going to be for the tongues, these little snappy things. I've got one more down here. Next up we're going to focus on these two little minions here. We're going to use some wolf gray, and we're going to color in their hosiery, their stockings. Now in the example art that they have on the website, they're wearing fishnets. But I am not going to do that. I am not that good. I could probably do it, but I'm not that patient. So we'll just paint them as sheer stockings and move on with our day. Now we're at a point where we can return to our matte black, since we have everything roughed in where we know it's going to go. So for the Joker, we're going to do his shoes black. We don't need to, he's wearing spats, so we'll just go around the spats as we do his shoes. Now the more intricate work will be on the costumery of the little henchman here. We're going to do the boots, basically anything we haven't painted yet, or their little dominatrix gimp outfits. It's all pretty simple stuff, you get the idea. tricky part will be doing the top of the stocking and the garter. Just let the brush slide down like that. Fumbled it. Can't find my larger paint handle. Alright, but the one that's going to be more complicated here is we can go to this little person. So standard boots will be black, fine. Undergarments black like the other ones. You're not even going to really see them on the model, but just in case. Now what you know from the art is this person's wearing a check pattern. And the way we're going to do that is get our thin brush and drag it so most of the paint's off. And then we're going to pick a little line here. We're just going to draw a line down to the bottom. We're going to mirror that on the other side here. And then we're going to draw more paint. Okay, so now we're going to draw another line there. And what you see I'm doing here is creating a grid, sketching out a little grid on our costume. I want to do the diamond pattern, so what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to cut away. This would probably be a better example. I'm going to make a black triangle in that box. Black triangle up here. So this is kind of a reductive way to leave the little diamond in the center there, which you cannot see with this camera. Okay, need more light. There's the idea. Draw, put a bunch of little squares, and cut little triangles in to create a diamond shape in the center of those squares that will still remain red. It's subtle, but it's there. We'll highlight them later. Now it's time to take some mummy robes, and we're going to go ahead and do Joker's face. We're also going to do the eyeballs of these little things. And the lenses of the stage lights. Oh, don't forget the canister, exhaust port for the gas. That should be about it. Oh, there's also this little googly eye guy here. Now, last thing we are going to do before we put on the wash is So I've got some of this hemp rope again, and we're going to do the floorboards. So I was looking at the example art, and it shows that these boards are chipped, but have been waxed over, sort of a real rundown look. So I'm going to take what was once a mighty pointy brush, and I cut down to a little tiny dry brush. I'm going to get some paint on it. I'm going to get most of the paint off, and I just needed a tiny brush there. And that way we can kind of work it back and forth, distressing some of the edges of the plank wood there. That'll give us a little variation in the color. So you just flavor that to taste, however much you want to show the wood is worn down. So now all the paint jobs are roughed in and ready to begin assembly. And I'm going to take some super glue and hit the little nubs bottom here. So the first model we'll place is a little helper. Okay. Okay, got them in. The next step will be Joker. So this foot will go on top of his back, and his head will go in there. So put a little bit of glue bottom of the feet there, just a touch. Okay, easy, lowering down into position. So now we're all assembled, dried, and ready to go on to the next step. So you can see it's painted, but it doesn't look sharp. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply some washes. So I'm going to start off with some Reikland Fleshshade. And this will be for these little helper dudes. And we're not going to, for the ones that have stockings, we're not going to put it on the stockings. We're going to do that later. We're going to use a regular brush, and we're just going to kind of paint it on. I don't want to slop it on. This will go in the details there and give us a more precise look. Now for this guy on the end, I'm going to put it on the clothes. But if you miss a little bit, it's alright. So now the Reikland Fleshshade has dried. Now we're going to go to our next wash, Nuln Oil. This is my favorite one. And it is talent in a bottle. Now let's use a broader tip brush. So, I know. Use this one. This one's falling apart. It's a dry brush. It's starting to fray. So now's a good time. So anything we didn't hit with the Reikland, we'll get with the Nuln Oil. And for this we just want a thin coat. Especially over stuff like the face and the hair. I want to bring out the detail, not drown it out. See? Alright. Brings out the wood grain there. So light little coat. And just do the rest of this beast. Now with everything dry, and I'm happy with how the Nuln Oil turned out on the wood planks. So by swishing different layers, create like spots where it looks like the floor is mistreated with spills. But now we're going to do the highlights, and we'll start with the blue curtain. And what we're going to do is use Ultramarine blue and Viking blue. So I have these colors side by side in my paint tray. What we're doing is just put a thick broad strokes along the ridge lines. Of the curtain. And this will enhance the three-dimensionality of the model. And then what we do is at certain peaks, so let's say right there, take a very thin application using the side of our brush, and you know, the ultramarine blue is still slightly wet. Kind of put that Viking blue in there, just in a couple of the small areas that like where the fold of the cloth. There you go, and that gives it that highlight. So we're going to do all this blue, and we'll work slowly and carefully. So I'm happy with how the curtain turned out. So I layered that up, and now we're going to move to the green. So we have two types of green here that I'm going to define. Got the hair, the fishies, and the gas. So we're going to go back and, like we did with the blue, the jungle green, just do some edge highlights. But with the gas, we're going to throw on some poisonous cloud, which is a yellow-green color. So let's show how we're going to do that. Similar to the curtain, take some of these edges, so you got something like that. Alright, well, it's kind of wet. We're going to take this yellow green, this poisonous cloud, just put little spot highlights like that. Once we do it all over the place, it'll look sharp. Now the rest of these guys, just put a little bit of paint, just run it real quick, just trying to make the highest scales pop out. And do this for Joker's hair. Just get some of those strands of hair to glisten. And we'll do the same for his little helpers. So we go around and fill all that in. So I'm liking how the poisonous gas looks, definitely. Now let's go back to our Pixie pink. And what we're going to do is just a couple little spot highlights. Just touch up that ruffles on the tutu and the collar. And we're also going to use it as kind of a spot highlight for the bows. Just a little flick of paint there at the creases. Where I really want it is on the Joker side. Just put a couple of extra layers there around the sharp edges. The sign. Then I'm going to get this little guy's tongue. His mouth isn't open wide enough. Alright, so while we're at it, let's highlight his tongue. There we go. Alright, we'll go around, punch it up a little bit. Now we're going to go back to our plate mail metal silvery color and just nickel plate up this sidearm here. There we go. Now for the part I've been avoiding, matte white. We're going to use this. Well, first let's get warmed up a little bit. We want this on the face of the fishies. I'm just going to dab it on there and look like it's been painted on. And we'll get the eyeballs. these little mean things. One up. Oh, here's a part like doing. I'm going to pretend these are neon. So just using the flat, I'll make the little glass reflective little light strips there. So I want it to look like neon, more of a grim dark. They've been ridden hard and put away wet. I think that does it. Excellent. I'm going to do that a little bit with the lights here. Show like the bulb. It's kind of a graphic look to it. And for the part of me practice on this Joker face. Alright, good. Taking a lot of the paint off before I touch it on. Just trying to get the highlights here. I also put a little edge highlighting on the spats and the shoes. The shoes especially make it look like he's got a high gloss shine there. But we're going to go back to the fog gray here. And what that is for is all these little black pieces, just not the whole edge, just little corners of them. And where we got a metallic black element, we just put little spots there. Don't need much paint, just let it glide off the edge of the brush. It goes for the outfits as well. Just little spots. Too much. Scrub that off. Just slight little touches of color make the three-dimensionality of the model pop out. Now I'm going to go back and touch up the red. But what red you're talking about? Because I already did the red of the bows. I want to do red of the trumpy things. And that'd just be a spot of color, really. just put a big bold streak of color right across there. See, I'm using the edge of the brush, hitting the edge, the little monster things. The more layers you put down, the more it'll pop, especially once we put that Nuln Oil on it. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull back my jungle green, because what I want to do is just finish off those little bitey monsters. I'm going to just take it and go doop. Give them eyes. You can play around with it. Let me give him big eyes here. Cool. So those guys are done. Now we're going to go back to our alien purple. And you're right, we're going to do some more edge highlighting here. And it's going to be just along these folds here. Put more color with the idea that light will be coming down. So I won't put any highlights like underneath his arm, but just on the midway and on up. Oh, and something that I'm not... Let me switch to my tiny brush to do this. Alright, so I'm going to use the alien purple and get my tiniest brush and just carefully ride the edge of the brush around his smile. We're going to do that with the fishies too. Of course, we have one more Joker face right here. It's getting too old for this. Can't see all this detail. There we go. You can actually see the edge line of his lips. Just gotta ride that brush around that edge. Get that smile to pop out. I have to clean that up. You get the idea. Alright, now we're getting close here. So, I am going to take some moon dust. Let me get my palette back to where I can use it. So this is a yellow. Jeez. Okay. I wanted something different from the poisonous cloud, just so you could tell there was a difference. We're going to use this in two areas here. So we're just going to get a little bit of the paint and some of the spines, the little fishies. We're just going to take the brush, touch some of those spines, get most of the paint off. Run it around. That'll lighten up there. Alright, then what we're going to do, I'm going to get some paint on here, dip it in some water, so that's going to really wash down paint. So we're just going to create like a little glaze, and those sections that we painted the matte white on the globe here, we'll hit those sections with this watered down moon dust. And that give us like this spooky, haunted look to it. So what happens is over the white, yellow will be brighter than over some of the darker areas with the wash, and that will create the effect we're looking for. So they're like there's light in there, but they're weak. Alright, cool. And then where did it go? Can get some P3 Ryan Flesch. Why this one? Because it's my favorite flesh color for Caucasian style fleshes, especially for Batman. The paleness really seems to capture something that the Kobold skin lacks. And so we just get little bits. A little bit of paint. Doing that creepy baby look. Now I'm going to call that a day with this model. But you notice I haven't done the rim on the base, and for that I use glossy black. It just sets it apart from the rest of the black. Use this brush here and I like to get a nice thick candy coat. Found the Vallejo Glossy Black by accident one day. Kind of a swap meet at the local store here, and I just like how it stands out from the rest of the matte blacks. Gives it that professional, like, I don't know, like something you put a trophy on, like a little stand. You just got to keep it nice thick coat so that the brush strokes don't show up. So that's why I use this brush. Just kind of glide it on. And there we go. We're going to call it a day with that guy. I can't touch him now. I did that. But I tell you what. This one, take your time. Don't be in a rush. Well, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs. And we'll see you next time.